Usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of absolute, like, engineering level precision.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you fall, you break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points at the screen and says, there it is.
Right. It's totally binary. Broken or not broken.
It's clean.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's comforting. We really like our medical realities to be visible and easily categorized.
Absolutely.
But then you step out of the urgent care clinic and into the world of, well, complex clinical reasoning.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole different ballgame.
Right. You look at specialized pathology, or you try to calculate real-time surgical risk, and suddenly that pristine x-ray machine metaphor just totally falls apart.
It does. It really does.
We are looking at a diagnostic landscape that is, frankly, murky. And for a long time, the artificial intelligence we tried to bring into hospitals just made those waters murkier.
Yeah, 100%.
We had these black box algorithms spitting out probabilities, saying you have an 82% chance of a disease, but without any real explanation of how they arrived at that number.
Which is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters. I mean, doctors were essentially being asked to trust an invisible thought process.
Which is terrifying.
Right. But what we are looking at today represents a seismic shift in how machines interact with medicine. The overarching theme of the sources we are exploring today, which is a massive stack of 22 cutting-edge research papers, is a total departure from those black box models.
So no more blind trust.
Exactly. The new frontier is all about verifiable trust, structural safety, and multimodal understanding.
Multimodal meaning?
Meaning we are talking about AI that can interpret vision, speech, and 3D space while integrating seamlessly into the incredibly messy reality of hospital workflows and doing it all without compromising patient privacy.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We are going to cut through all the academic jargon and show you exactly how AI is evolving from, simple text generators into highly specialized, spatially aware medical assistants.
It's going to be a dense one.
It is. We have a lot of ground to cover, and we're going to make sure to end this audio overview within 15 to 17 minutes, so let's hit the ground running.
Sounds good.
And since we are navigating a literal mountain of research, you'll hear us refer to specific paper numbers as we go. It's our way of leaving breadcrumbs so you can track the specific innovations we're unpacking.
Exactly. It just helps map out the whole journey.
So let's start with the most fundamental challenge, the mind. If a doctor is going to actually trust an AI, that AI needs to think like a human clinician, not just spit out statistical correlations.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. We'll start with paper 1.
MedVCR.
Yeah. They introduce a framework for a medical video diagnosis, specifically analyzing footage from colonoscopies and colposcopies.
Very complex visual environments. Super complex. But instead of just looking at a static snapshot and matching it to a database of known diseases, this AI uses what they call counterfactual reasoning.
Which is fascinating.
It really is. It actively asks, what if this tissue evolved differently under a different pathology?
That is a profound leap in artificial cognition. I mean, when a human gastroenterologist looks at a polyp during a colonoscopy, they aren't just doing pattern recognition.
Right, they're not just matching pictures.
Exactly. They are running simulations in their head. They're thinking, if this were malignant, the tissue boundary would be degrading at rate X over time, but instead it looks like Y.
So it's dynamic.
Very. And paper 1 uses a diffusion-based generator to actually synthesize these parallel scenarios.
Wow.
Yeah, the AI essentially hallucinates these alternate realities, these counterfactuals, and mathematically compares them to the real video feed it is receiving.
That is wild.
And because this process is grounded in actual clinical rules like temporal consistency, it performs significantly better than existing models. I love that concept. It's almost like a chess grandmaster, right?
Yeah.
Thinking 5 moves ahead in multiple different directions just to figure out the current state of the board.
That's a great way to put it.
But here's where I get hung up. If the AI is generating these simulated alternate realities, how do we audit it?
The verifiability problem.
Right. If it makes a bad call, we are right back to the black box problem.
And that is exactly what the team in Paper 9 tackles. They use an approach called neurosymbolic reasoning.
Okay, break that down for me.
So essentially, they take the fuzzy linguistic intuition that large language models are so good at generating, and they translate those guesses into auditable, formal, fuzzy logic.
Explain fuzzy logic to me in this context. I mean, why not just use strict binary logic?
Because human biology rarely operates in absolutes, right? Symptoms are probabilistic.
Like a little bit sick versus very sick.
Exactly. A patient might have, say, mild inflammation and a slightly elevated heart rate. It's not a simple 1 or 0.
Makes sense.
So neurosymbolic reasoning decodes the AI's probabilistic intuition into a symbolic knowledge base of declarative rules.
Okay.
It creates a visible step-by-step reasoning chain. So if the AI makes a mistake in its diagnosis, doctors don't just have to shrug at an incomprehensible algorithm.
They can actually see the math.
Better than math, They can trace the exact logical rule the AI got wrong, explain the error, and rewrite that specific rule. It makes the entire system formally verifiable.
So you can actually, like, debug the AI's medical degree. That is fascinating.
It's a game changer.
Now, what happens when we force an AI to apply that reasoning to live video? Let's bring in paper 22.
The VITAL framework.
Right. They introduce VITAL for medical visual language models. To make the AI's thought process transparent, they use visual-semantic dual supervision.
Which is a mouthful.
It is. But essentially, they force the AI to write out its reasoning chains in text while simultaneously highlighting the specific pixels on the screen it's looking at.
Showing its work, basically.
Exactly. But let me push back here. If we are forcing the AI to generate all these visual and text explanations, like doing all this homework during a live medical procedure, doesn't that slow the system down and create dangerous lag?
That's a completely valid concern. I mean, in a live clinical setting, latency can be just as dangerous as inaccuracy.
Right, you don't want the screen freezing while someone has a scalpel.
Exactly. But that concern actually highlights the architectural brilliance of paper 22, that intensive visual semantic dual supervision. It only happens during the training phase.
Wait, really? So it learns with the training wheels on, but takes them off for the actual procedure?
Precisely. During training, the system is forced to perfectly align its visual understanding with its text-based reasoning and its internal blueprint, the latent space.
Okay.
But once it truly understands those connections, the heavy text decoder and the visual projector actually detach during inference.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when the doctor's using it live, there is zero overhead and zero lag.
That is incredibly smart.
It is. Yet because its internal blueprint was forged under that strict supervision, it still reasons with incredibly high precision. And if you ever need to audit a decision after the surgery is over, you can reattach those modules to get the full explanation.
It's the ultimate best of both worlds. Extreme speed in the moment, total transparency after the fact.
Exactly.
That is such an elegant solution, and I think it perfectly bridges the gap to our next major hurdle, which is safety.
Crucial topic.
Because once an AI can reason at high speeds, we have to put guardrails in place to ensure it doesn't make a lethal recommendation. So let's look at prescriptions.
Okay.
Paper 5 introduces 𝗓𝗵𝗆 agent. They point out a major flaw in current AI, which is that many models just recommend broad medication categories.
Which is super dangerous.
Right. But 𝗓𝗵𝗆 agent generates what are called fourth-level ATC codes. This is an incredibly fine-grained, highly specific medication recommendation system.
And that granularity is quite literally a matter of life and death. Well, if a broad AI simply recommends an anti-inflammatory, it might blindly prescribe a chemical formulation that causes a fatal drug interaction with the patient's specific heart medication.
Yikes. Yeah, that's bad.
Paper 5 fixes this by using multi-agent verification. One AI agent generates the specific fourth-level prescription, and a completely separate AI agent cross-references that exact chemical against external clinical databases to hunt for contraindications.
So it's double-checking its own work.
Exactly.
But what happens when the tools themselves fail? Because, we know they will eventually encounter something they just don't understand.
And that harsh reality is the exact focus of paper 20.
Okay.
The researchers identify what they call a single oracle risk gap.
Single oracle.
Meaning no single medical AI tool is perfectly reliable across every unique patient demographic or rare disease instance.
Oh, I see.
So instead of relying on one omniscient best tool, they built a reinforcement learning framework that manages an entire suite of different tools.
Okay, let me see if I have this right. It's essentially the AI equivalent of a multidisciplinary hospital board, right? Like if the primary care physician is stumped, they don't just guess. They bring in the oncologist and the radiologist to hash it out.
That's a perfect analogy. When the system detects a high-risk disagreement or potential failure in one tool, it uses dynamic tool synergy to correct the error at the instance level.
So it knows who to ask for help.
Right. It learns exactly when to call for a second, third, or fourth artificial opinion.
Which is exactly what you want when dealing with the unknown. And speaking of the unknown, Paper 7 tackles a massive safety issue, which is predicting how entirely new, unseen drugs will interact out in the wild.
OOD-GraphLLM.
Yes, OOD-GraphLLM. It's like knowing exactly how a drug works in a controlled lab setting, which is your in-distribution data, but then having to predict drug synergy for a totally new, unseen molecular structure out in the wild.
Which is incredibly risky.
Yeah. So how do they bridge that gap safely?
By combining two very different ways of understanding a drug. They align the topological structure of the molecule, literally its 3D physical shape and chemical bonds,
Okay.
with language-based semantic reasoning from medical literature.
So shapes and words.
Exactly. By mathematically linking the physical geometry to the textual descriptions of what the drug does, the model can safely infer how a brand new molecule might interact with existing medications.
That is incredible. And there's another layer of safety we need to discuss, specifically in radiology, which paper 4 addresses.
Clinical consensus selection?
Right. Usually you ask an AI to generate a radiology report, it spits one out, and you just kind of hope it's right. But the team behind paper 4 found that the AI often has a much better, safer answer just lurking in its alternative drafts.
Yes, this is so cool. Instead of accepting the very first thing the AI spits out, the system generates a massive pool of possible reports for the exact same X-ray.
Like brainstorming.
Exactly. Then it uses an image-grounded multimodal embedder to mathematically analyze the entire pool. It's looking for the report that represents the highest clinical consensus among all the viable options.
So it's basically taking a vote.
Yeah. It essentially forces the AI to brainstorm 10 different ways to interpret the scan, and then mathematically selects the reading that is the most clinically sound and robust.
Which significantly boosts safety at inference time.
Big time.
Okay, so we have models that can reason, and we have built a robust net of safety protocols. Let's take all of that and walk into the most physical, highly sensitive, high-stakes environment in a hospital.
The surgical suite.
Oh, the OR.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. Paper 2 introduces SURGENT. It's a multi-agent system managing the entire perioperative workflow, from pre-op analysis to simulating the surgical plan.
But the deployment is the key here.
Right. The real kicker is that it runs entirely on a locally deployable DeepSeek model.
And that local deployment cannot be overstated. It is a revolutionary step.
Why is it such a big deal? Because one of the biggest roadblocks to integrating AI into active surgery is data privacy and latency. You absolutely cannot have highly sensitive, real-time surgical video and patient data streaming out of the hospital to a centralized third-party cloud server.
Not to mention, if the hospital's internet connection blips for 2 seconds during a critical incision.
You are in serious trouble.
Exactly.
By utilizing a highly capable, locally hosted backbone, SURGENT ensures that patient data never leaves the hospital's own servers.
That's huge for privacy.
It is. Yet it still provides the surgical team with advanced tools like a tree of thought planner, where multiple AI agents collaborate to map out the surgery step by step.
But once you're actually making that incision, the physical challenges are just immense.
Oh, they are.
Paper 17 tackles this with a system called SURGENT. They're trying to solve a massive problem, which is estimating the exact 3D pose and angle of surgical instruments in real time.
Which is much harder than it sounds.
Right. Because picture an open surgery. It is messy. There is blood, there are frequent occlusions where the surgeon's hand blocks the camera, and the instruments themselves are made of smooth, textureless metal.
Yeah, traditional depth cameras get completely confused by the glare. They fail entirely.
So how does Paper 17 fix it?
That's why their approach is so critical. They managed to track these tools in 3D space using only standard RGB cameras, just the normal, flat video feeds.
Wait, how is that even possible? How does a flat camera see the 3D angle of a shiny metal scalpel?
By using a geometry-consistent framework. The AI already has the precise 3D CAD model, the digital blueprint of the surgical instrument, in its memory.
Okay, so it knows what it should look like.
Right. It looks at the 2D silhouette of the tool in the surgical video feed, and it calculates exactly how the 3D digital model would need to be rotated to cast that exact 2D silhouette.
Oh, wow. It's like doing high-tech shadow puppetry.
That's a great way to think about it.
If you know the shape of your hand, you can tell exactly how it's angled just by looking at the shadow on the wall.
Exactly. It's matching the live 2D shape to the known 3D geometry, completely bypassing the need for expensive, unreliable depth sensors.
That makes perfect sense. And to ground all of this spatial awareness, we have Paper 15 introducing MedVol-R1.
Yeah, yes.
This model takes a free-form text query from a surgeon like segment the tumor near the left ventricle and maps it into a precise 3D volumetric mask on a medical stand.
But the way it builds that mask is what's really important.
Right. It uses reinforcement learning to explicitly decouple the grounding process from the 3D masking process.
Which is a vital mechanism to prevent AI hallucinations.
Because we definitely don't want hallucinations in the OR.
Definitely not. The model isn't allowed to just guess a 3D volume out of thin air. It first has to locate a verifiable 2D slice of the scan as an evidence anchor.
Okay.
It proves its logic on that flat 2D slice, confirms it is looking at the right anatomical structure, and only then is it allowed to project that understanding into a cohesive 3D mask.
So it has to build the house on a solid 2D foundation first.
Exactly.
Now let's step out of the operating room and head back into the imaging lab, because we are seeing a massive debate play out in the research right now.
The foundation model debate.
Yeah. Do we want generic, do-it-all foundation models, or hyper-specialized AI? And based on papers 3 and 8, specialization is winning by a landslide.
It really is.
Paper 3 introduces CSA-MoE-Net specifically for breast ultrasound diagnosis, hitting over 96% accuracy.
Wow.
Right. And paper 8 uses subspace decoupling for fatty liver disease, or NAFLD. And here is my analogy for this one.
Let's hear it.
Instead of one exhausted doctor trying to spot steatosis, ballooning, and inflammation all at once and getting their wires crossed, Paper 8 creates completely independent workspaces or feature subspaces for each task.
Which solves a huge issue in AI called negative transfer.
What is that?
In multitask AI learning, if you force a model to look for multiple different disease indicators at the same time, it gets confused. Teaching it to spot one symptom actually degrades its ability to spot another.
It's like trying to do your taxes, paint a watercolor, and fix a toaster on the exact same tiny desk. You are going to ruin all three.
Yes, Paper 8 stops them from interfering with each other.
Brilliant. But if we are going to rely on these models, we have to be certain they actually understand human anatomy rather than just memorizing pixel patterns, right?
Right. And Paper 11 addresses exactly that with 𝗵𝗽𝗶𝗵𝗵.
𝗵𝗽𝗶𝗵𝗵, okay.
It's a benchmark designed specifically for pathology foundation models. For a long time, we just tested these AI models on clinical endpoints. We'd ask, did the model predict patient survival accurately?
Which seems like the goal. Right.
It is, but Paper 11 tests whether the AI's internal embeddings actually understand spatial tissue architecture. Do they recognize the physical structural boundaries of a cell, or did they just memorize the color gradient of a specific data set?
Oh, I see. It's the difference between memorizing the answers to a test and actually understanding the material.
Precisely.
And sometimes, to get the AI to understand the material, you just need a massive amount of highly specific data. Look at paper 19.
The 𝗵𝗽𝗶𝗵𝗵 paper.
Yes. They noted how the researchers built 𝗵𝗽𝗶𝗵𝗵 by pulling web-scare videos to train a highly specialized ophthalmology multimodal model.
Which is brilliant because they bypassed the usual data bottlenecks. They didn't have enough conversational data, so they just made it from open access videos.
Ingenious. However, as we rely more on these massive foundation models, we really have to acknowledge their fundamental blind spots.
Yes, we do.
And paper 21 issues a vital warning regarding AI models trained on EEG, or brainwave data.
This one is scary. When you pre-train a massive foundation model on unlabeled EEG data, you introduce a massive bias.
Why? What is the AI focusing on that it shouldn't be?
It comes down to frequency. These models are basically trained to reconstruct the bulk of the signal they receive.
Okay.
But in brainwaves, the bulk of the signal is high-power, low-frequency aperiodic data, essentially just the background hum of the brain.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Right. Because the AI focuses so heavily on this loud background noise, it completely misses the critical high-frequency oscillatory structures.
The subtle, actual brain waves that indicate a disease.
Exactly.
It's like training an AI to listen to a symphony, but it gets so distracted by the loud booming of the bass drum that it completely ignores the subtle melody of the violins.
That is exactly what is happening. In fact, in low-resource settings, these massive foundation models actually get beaten by much smaller supervised models because the foundation models are just prioritizing the wrong spectral frequencies.
That's wild. It's a stark reminder that foundation models aren't magic.
No, they are not.
Which brings us to our final and perhaps most crucial reality check. Real-world workflow and the human element.
Yes.
Because a perfect diagnostic model is totally useless if it can't integrate into a messy hospital database or, actually talk to a human patient.
And hospital databases are notoriously messy.
Very. Let's highlight two workflow papers, paper 18 and paper 12. Paper 18 is about the RAPTOR Plus system.
Oh, for cancer referrals.
Right. It uses visually grounded models to process messy cancer referral forms instead of clunky text OCR.
Which is so needed. Referral forms are a nightmare of handwriting and random checkboxes.
Exactly. And paper 12, Pathwise, takes it even further. It literally turns non-computable visual clinical flowcharts into executable HL7 code.
Which is amazing because computers cannot inherently read a visual flowchart.
Right? But integrating into those deep hospital databases isn't always smooth sailing. The expert adds a reality check with paper 13.
This was a sobering read.
Tell me about it.
Well, when you force LLMs to use realistic, structured hospital data formats, specifically FHIR bundles, instead of clean, plain text, their diagnostic accuracy actually drops.
Wait, really? It gets worse with structured data?
Yes, because FHIR bundles look like dense, nested JSON code, not a nicely written novel. The AI gets distracted by the syntax.
Oh, man.
It proves that we desperately need deployment-aligned benchmarking. We can't just test medical AI in a pristine lab. We have to test it in the digital trenches.
That makes total sense. And what about the actual human beings?
The patient.
All right. Paper 6 introduces a multimodal framework for detecting dementia from spontaneous speech.
Using 𝗵𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗵 and 𝗵𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗵.
Exactly. It combines acoustic and textual cues, capturing both what the patient says and how they say it. But analyzing how the AI talks back to the patient is just as critical.
Oh, definitely. And we have two major dialogue papers here. Paper 14, medial speech, and paper 16, health dial.
What do they find out about the dialogue?
Well, while Claude Sonnet 4 performed best in the doctor-patient dialogues, the researchers found a terrifying flaw across the board.
Oh,
All LLMs are highly overconfident in their medical predictions, right or wrong.
so even if it's dead wrong, it sounds totally certain.
Exactly. It presents its conclusion with unwavering certainty.
That is deeply unsettling. An overconfident wrong answer from an authority figure is incredibly dangerous.
It really is.
So what does this all mean for you? How do we fix the AI's bedside manner? We conclude our paper review with paper 10, which introduces LLMI. It's an AI assistant specifically designed for mental health support. But instead of relying on massive cloud models, they use small open-source models trained purely on community feedback.
Right, like Reddit upvotes and downvotes.
Exactly. It proves you can get high-empathy, privacy-safe results from small models just by learning from the crowd. It learned genuine bedside manner from the internet.
Which is incredible. And really, if we synthesize this entire deep dive, the future of medical AI isn't just a smarter chatbot.
No.
It's a highly localized, privacy-preserving, 3D-aware ecosystem that can reason, verify its own work, and interface safely with both complex hospital databases and vulnerable human beings.
And look at that. We've navigated all 22 papers and are landing right in our 15 to 17-minute window for this audio overview.
We did it.
We did. But before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. If an AI can accurately mimic clinical reasoning, instantly recall the latest drug synergies, and even use community feedback to perfect its empathy, at what point does the artificial bedside manner become indistinguishable from, or even preferable to, a rushed human doctors?
That is a heavy question.
It is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will catch you next time.